Howdy folks, this is Lurkin from Mobilytics. We got a pure Fireball build. Really liking it. I do like it more than the Fireball Meteor Meatball build. That build has some synergies, and if you're really into Meteor, it is fun, it's great, but I think you get more value out of just sticking with Fireball and just spam casting that. Especially you don't have to slot Shattered Stars anymore. Your enchantments free up. You can put Ancient Flame, and you get a lot of crazy attack speed. And then you don't have to worry. You don't end up splitting the pot. There are synergies with Searing Heat Legendary Node and Aspect of 3 Curses, but you don't end up having to split the board. You can just focus on more multis for Fireball and not have to take Adept. So for the enchantments for this build, it's Frozen Orb enchant and Firebolt enchant. It's annoying that Fireball can't proc Burning on its own, so we do run Firebolt enchant on this build. The Burning's really nice for Devouring Blaze, especially because we can get Immobilize from Fireball via one of the passives. The passive next to Devouring Blaze, whatever that one's called. You'll see it when I go over the skill tree. And then next we have Frozen Orb enchant. This is really nice considering how fast we are casting Fireball. So we'll get some Vuln out of this, we'll get some crowd control, and we'll eventually freeze enemies. And yeah, anything that casts really fast, just a big Frozen Orb chant. In addition, that also frees up our skill bar. That way we don't have to run any... Yeah, we don't have to run the dreaded 1 point in Ice Blades that like just hogs up a spot for no reason, just so we can get a Talrasha stock. So I really like Firebolt and Frozen Orb enchant on this, and I think that's what I'm sticking to. So next, let's go over the gear. So I normally use a Shako. The 4 ranks is really nice. Max life, resource gen, cooldown. But some of the videos upcoming, most of the videos are actually me running no Ubers whatsoever on the build, just to show you like what it's like at base. So you're going to want an Ever-Living Helmet with total armor, max life, cooldown reduction. That's the triple threat on Helm. Can't go wrong with those 3. And then last spots of flex, either int, life on kill, all stats would be okay, and then lucky hit chance with barrier would be fine because we got some lucky hit stuff going on in here. Next, you're gonna want triple DR, total armor, disobedience, chest. So you're gonna want flat damage reduction, DR burning, and then either DR close or DR distant. I lean towards DR distant because of the DR close roll onto bolts, kind of like to spread it out a little bit. And we are playing at range, so some stuff will peg us. Next are Gloves of the Illuminator. You can get this from, I believe it's the Beast and the Ice Guy with Distilled Fear. You need these to play the build. You can't play Fireball until you get these. These are so good. Fireball now bounces. It bounces 3 times. There's a spot you can stand between so say you have a boss like Duriel or something, or just like a T100 boss. There's a spot you can stand where the first ball that hits, it's going to hit the boss in its radius. The second ball that hits is going to hit the boss in its radius. And then when it bounces a 3rd time, it's going to overlap 2 in the radius. So if you can figure out what that distance is between the boss, do like an evade teleport combo to get the crit chance from Asus, the 40% damage from Tibalt's, and then you just stand there and you can just spam away. The build's really good on mana, but then we also have Inferno to give us a bunch of free casts. So that's sort of the combo, and that's how you can nuke bosses and really help the damage here. Next is Tibalt's Will. Get this from Duriel. Just the amazing piece. Every time we teleport or Flame Shield, we're going to get 50 of our primary resource and 40% damage for 4 seconds, like while unstoppable and after. This 50 resource, it gets multiplied by your resource gen, so it really ends up topping you off. Next is Asus Heirloom. If you have movement speed roll on your amulet, you're going to end up getting about 38 crit during an evade and about 50 after you kill an elite. So this is really good. It allows us to... I'm just running Asus on like every build now because I'm done worrying about staying above 100 mana. I'm just going to take the 38 crit chance, which is about equivalent to an Elementalist, instead of having to like spec my whole build around being at like 175 mana, so I'm always above. I'm over it. Next, we're going to want a wand. We're kind of playing at range. I wouldn't really recommend a dagger. Wands are easier to get. You're going to want int, all stats, and then the 2 stats here are kind of open-ended. You can take core, core, distant, critical strike damage, vuln damage, damage to burning. It's really not too picky. I'd probably take core and critical strike damage if I could like have my choice. And then we have the Aspect of Ancient Flame. So we're going to use Asus Ferocity, and Fireball was meant to work with Asus Ferocity. So when that passive gets fixed, so that the other damage doesn't work with it, we're still going to be big chillin'. We get a tremendous amount of attack speed from this, like 50% attack speed. It's so good. Really, you're just ripping out fireballs. Next, we have a Conceited Focus. I like this. Just crit, mana cost, resource, cooldown. Can't go wrong with that. I wouldn't really make any changes. Maybe Lucky Hit Restore if you can't get mana cost, that'd be okay. This is where my Starless Skies would go if I had one, but I'll be getting one in a couple days when the trader comes. I'm at 5 Shrine Staffs, 4 Seligs, and I'm done doing Duriel. Sold all my mats. So now you're going to want Crit Chance, Max Life, Resource Generation, and I really do like fire damage, but like Critical Strike damage or core skill damage, Vulnerable would be fine. And then you're going to want Storm Swell on here, and then Storm Swell is what will get replaced when you get Starless Skies. Starless Skies is a must slot on this build. It's so good. But I would take Conceited over Storm Swell because of the conditionality. Even though Storm Swell is 5% more, it's the conditionality of them needing to be vulnerable. So Conceited has just got better uptime. Next we take Talrasha. We got fire damage. We have lightning damage from teleport when we hit an enemy. Then we have Frozen Orb. So we have 45% damage here. If you wanted, you could slot in Duriels or Godslayer. You could slot in Duriels for an extra 15%, some attack speed and lifesteal, or Godslayer for when you do immobilize an elite, it'll pull them in, help you with the boss. So Helmet's a little open-ended. The next we have an Amulet. Preferably, I would want 3 ranks Dev Blaze. That's what you need that for this build. It's kind of just what it is. You'd be okay if you don't have it, but that's the passive you want. And then you're going to want mana cost reduction, cooldown reduction, and then the last effects is kind of a flex. You could take 3 defensive ranks, any form of DR. I'd prefer movement speed though, because I want the crit chance that it gives Asus. It's going to give Asus 30% of 26. I'm blanking, like 9%, 10% crit, something like that, 8%. So that's going to be fine. So next, let's go into our Seneschal Construct. So, Tempest and Flash of Adrenaline. There's a theme here. These are the two best. Flash of Adrenaline with Genesis makes it a 50% damage buff as opposed to a 20%. If you don't have Genesis, take Initiative so he teleports to you for better uptime. Tactical reduces the cooldown of it, so it goes off every 12 seconds of every 20. And now instead of duration gives it 4 more seconds, so instead of 8 seconds, it's going to be a 12-second duration, so it's always up 50%. Next, we have Tempest. I really do like breaking and arcing on this because we don't have the Frozen Orbit aspect. Frozen Orb isn't the best Vuln applicator. It's less reliable than it is with the aspect. So definitely I like breaking and arcing here. Make sure everything's Vuln for a Frigid Fate, Exploit, stuff like that. And then Evernight's going to round it out. Evernight's goated on this build. Core skills really love the ranks. If you don't have Evernight, you could take Resource, or you could take Safeguard or Efficiency. Any of those would be good. Really what you're feeling. If your mana's bad, take Resource, etc. Alright, now let's go into the skill tree. My skill tree is a little scuffed right now because I don't have my Shako on, so I had to move some points. So 2 points in Firebolt just to progress, and for the enchantment, we're going to max out Fireball, enhance Fireball for bigger radius, and both these nodes suck, but you're going to take Destructive Fireball just to give it a little extra crit damage when it hits a few enemies at once. Meanwhile, Hoda Barbs get 200% damage and 30% damage on their 2 nodes, so real balanced here. Next we take Frozen Orb. We're taking it for the Vuln here. Explosion has 30% chance. 1 point Devastation and 3 points in Elemental Dominance. That way we get 9% more damage. We're going to max out. We're going to take the 3 points in Flame Shield for Enhanced so that we get movement speed for Asus, Shimmering for 50 to heal us through poison, etc., etc. I was only able to get 2 points in TP, unfortunately. But with Shako and Evernight, it ends up bumping it up, and you'll see like 4.5 second TPs, and that's mainly just for the DR, and yeah, for the DR from Shimmering. Max out Glass Cannon, 1 point Elemental Attunement to reset our defensives every now and again, 1 point Ice Armor, and then just was only able to afford the 3 points in Frost Nova to get Mystical. Frost Nova is really nice on this build because we don't have Raiment. You can teleport into a pack and you can Frost Nova them and then just evade out away and then just nuke them with your Fireball. So it's pretty solid. Next we take Align the Elements so that we can reach Mana Shield for 21% DR. And Protection, so we get a pretty fat barrier for 3 seconds when we use one of our 4 cooldown skills or our Inferno. Next, take 3 ranks in Inner Flame for 9% damage when we're healthy. 6 ranks in Dead Blaze if you got it on the Ami for 42% critical strike damage against burning enemies, hence the Firebolt enchant, and 60% from Immobilize. And we get our Immobilize, there's the name, Crippling Flames. So lucky hit, Fireball has a 15% chance to immobilize. You see this go off quite a lot because it's a 30% chance when you're healthy. So this is where all my points went. So these are kind of flex points. So I take Frigid Breeze because it's bugged. Once they fix Frigid Breeze, it's going to go away, and then I'm going to slap those into Teleport, and maybe a little bit of Frost Nova. We'll see. So we just path up through here so that we can get the 3 points in Hoarfrost, because that is going to give us 9% damage against anything that Frozen Orb touches. So it's some nice mobbing damage. And then the 3 ranks in Frigid Breeze, cold damage. It's all damage against vulnerable enemies. Has a 20% chance to generate 15 mana. So that's sort of why the Arcing Breaking on the pet is so good, because it really helps your mana regen when stuff's vuln. We take Inferno, Prime Inferno for the pull, and Supreme so that we can spam cast Fireball when it's active. Inferno's pretty nice. Even though it does like bad damage and it's not that good, it's one of my favorite ults. I do like Sources ults, even though they're bad, besides Unstable Currents. They're decent. I just wish it did a little more damage. I digress. Last is our beloved Asus Ferocity that enables Ancient Flame to give us so much attack speed. And we're actually supposed to be getting the critical strike damage, 25% against enemies above half-life, and 5% crit when they're below half-life. Hey guys, so now we're going to move on to the Paragon board, and I ended up making some changes as to what I initially had before, just to give me some more mana and do a better job at maxing the resists. So here's the final product, and I'm pretty happy with this one. So starter board, grab this non-physical, and then we're going to slot reinforced here so that we can get 15% damage reduction when we have a barrier. That bumps our all resist and our non-physical damage. Next we take Elementalist because we're dealing fire damage and cold damage. We're going to get reliably 1.1x. And if we teleport on a boss, we're going to get 1.15x damage for 10 seconds, which is pretty huge. And that buffs a bunch of our non-physical stuff here and our all resist. We path up here, we grab this non-physical and damage to elites just to buff us up to take us to that 300% mark that we need to max out Searing Heat and Frigid Fate. Our next board is Elemental Summoner, and we're going to slot Flame Feeder here for the 34 decks that it offers, as well as to grab some all resist to help max. We path down through here, and then we grab this juicy 28 mana. I had it on Static Surge before, but this is just cleaner. Next, we take the Searing Heat. We're going to path all the way to the Searing Heat Legendary node so that our Fireball gets 12% crit strike chance and 30% direct damage. We grab all this fire damage, this critical strike damage, and we're going to slot Pyromaniac on here. Now this isn't the best glyph, but it's not the worst glyph. The 26.2 fire damage is okay. I wish this was something different. I wish it was 125% bonus to rares, and then that this node wasn't a useless fire resist. But the main thing here is every pyromancy skill you cast gives you 2% damage up to 10% for 6 seconds, and we are spam casting Fireball, so this is going to be pretty much maxed out at 10% all the time. So then we path out and we take Destruction for a whopping 194% critical strike damage. And I am leaning into taking a bunch of crit damage on this build because I realize the more crit damage I have, the more value I'm gonna get out of the 3 curses on the amulet because I'm dealing 1.6x damage with all my critical strikes. Then you factor in Asus Ferocity giving me 1.25x on enemies above half-life, and this ends up allowing you to really just nuke some bosses, just all the pure damage multipliers. So when you have, I took off Shako for filming this board. So when you have Shako on, you are gonna max. You're gonna max out and get your dexterity so that you can meet this DR burning to get an extra 5%. If you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. It's not too big of a node. Next, we take Enchanter here, and Enchanter is what allows us to get our 1.3x on Frigid Fate and our 1.3x on Searing Heat. Super nice. because we get a fat 85.8 non-physical damage. We're unable to hit this willpower wreck, and we're not really going to hit it no matter what board we slot it on. So that's why this board takes the 6th slot. And then for our last board, we take the bare minimum, basically an exploit, just so we can get 1.1x damage and a little bit of vulnerable damage. I'm pretty happy with this board. I think it's got a mix of everything, and it does a pretty good job here. We can look and see we're maxed on all our resists. Basically, we're missing a little fire, but we're above the 70% mark there. And if we slot Shako, it goes up a little bit more. And then once you have Starless Skies, instead of it has 12% resistance to all elements twice. So once you get Starless Skies, you can start to do some stuff with the Paragon board, like instead of taking these nodes to help max resists, you can just take these 3 and you can end up saving a point. You can put that somewhere else. Same thing here. Instead of pathing up like this, you can just put 1 point here and go over. That'll save 1 point as well. You can end up putting that somewhere else. You can drop this one, so you end up saving a couple points that you could put probably, yeah, because with Shako, I don't know. You'll figure it out. You can just really put it anywhere. Maybe pick up a couple more points on exploit, etc., etc., or grab this damage to elites, or maybe even path over here and grab this little bit of non-fizz. But yeah, just some min-maxing stuff that you can do. And my scroll wheel's not functioning. All right, let's move on to the next section. And I totally forgot that the next section is me vividly complaining about Staff of Endless Rage. I don't like Staff of Endless Rage. In Charged Bolts, I like Staff of Lemesson, but staffs are not it right now. So let's just slot this puppy. Let's see what we get from it. We get some fire damage, and these values are going to go up when I upgrade it, but I'm not sinking any materials into this thing. We're going to get some core skill damage, some damage to close, which is a little weird for Fireball because you're typically ranged, so this damage to close is a little awkward on here. And then you get you're going to get 3 ranks of the Inner Flame passive. That's going to give you 9% more damage. So, it's got some good additives in here. And then the main thing here is every third cast of Fireball launches 2 additional projectiles and deals 40% increased damage. So I'm going to do a little calculator math here. So let's say you do 100 damage per Fireball. Without Staff of Endless Rage at base, you're going to do 300 damage with 3 Fireballs. And then with Staff of Endless Rage, you're going to do 100 plus 100, that's 200. And then the third cast is going to launch 3 projectiles that do 1.4x damage, so 3 times 140. So instead of 300 damage, you're going to do 620 damage. So it is a pretty sizable buff, but that's if all the fireballs hit the enemy. But I don't like it because what ends up happening is, say you end up getting Starless Skies, then you only have a single slot for any offensive aspect, and I don't like that. Storm Shell's sort of equivalent to Starless Skies, 1.3x versus 1.4, but what I really want here is, let's put my stuff back on, is because I'm going to want to keep 3 curses. If I run Staff of Endless Rage, I'm going to lose this Ancient Flame that's giving me 50% attack speed so that I can spam cast Fireballs, and then I'm going to lose another damage multi. And I think the biggest thing is I do think Staff of Endless Rage will be a net damage increase if you choose to run it. But the biggest thing here is you're going to lose 2 aspect slots, especially the Ancient Flame there. And then mainly you're going to lose this crit strike chance, the mana cost reduction, the resource generation, and then 2 cooldown reduction rolls. So then you're going to end up having not the best uptime with the bolts. Well, maybe if you have Shako and Evernight, because you're going to get a ton of ranks. But you're losing 20% cooldown, a bunch of resource gen. It's up to you. You can try it. This build can definitely be ran as is with Staff of Endless Rage. If you don't have Starless Skies, you could put Ancient Flame here, and then you want 3 curses on the amulet no matter what, or you could put Starless Skies here and then just have 3 curses. So try it out. Give it a whirl. If you're okay with the crappy cooldowns, then run it. It's pretty open here. So yeah, that's what I would do. 3 curses on the amulet with Staff of Endless Rage, and then either Ancient Flame or Starless Skies here. So before people going asking me, how do we slot Endless Rage into the build? I'm not about staffs. Your cooldowns feel really bad with all your spamming. Things just don't. Just not a fan.